Roja Shibe here, doing my version of the car video. Don't really drive, so it's just kind of parked in the garage, but you might see Thomas G. Shout out to him, Dog Pound Nation, Omar Bannon of Crypto O. Both great podcasters, great YouTubers, giving you, news and information about what's going on. Thomas G. more on the trader side of things, and Omar Bannon just, talking about developers, news, across the board, things of that nature. It's supposed to be some kind of mining episode where you can break down his Ethereum mining rig. I think it's Ethereum. But anyways, I wanted to talk about something that I've been seeing in the space a lot lately. It's always been part of the space, but it's this concept that, Bitcoin should be the only coin. You have these, what is called Bitcoin Maximalists, where they believe that all the other coins take away from Bitcoin. And while some have conceded a little point to where some coins might be great testing grounds, like Litecoin, if you will, to test like the Lightning Network or SegWit, there's no point of any developers or any investment of your money into these coins. They always call these coins shit coins, whatever. They're always going to be crap coins. There's going to be only one coin. Everyone should invest their money in Bitcoin and nothing else. And it's a little discouraging, very much disparaging, some of them, not all of them, very disparaging to other coins, other developers, other people making investments. They're calling pretty much you're stupid for, going into Litecoin or going into Ethereum. Because basically they're saying eventually Bitcoin is going to do this. Well, eventually is not now. Eventually is not the here and now. Eventually is nice. It could potentially possibly happen if coulda, woulda, shoulda. At the same time, people owe nothing to Bitcoin. The whole purpose of Bitcoin is it's a voluntary system. It's not the involuntary system that everyone is currently with fiat. It's voluntary. I can choose at what level I want to be involved in Bitcoin. I can be a miner if I choose to be. I can be a node operator. I can develop and code if I want to. I can either contribute through the Bitcoin core or develop my own implementations, as some people have done with nodes, implementing nodes that allow for Bitcoin to transact across networks. I can develop my own type of code to make it simpler for people to interact and engage, like APIs, wallets, things of that nature. I can be a merchant. I can, gather my coins together and open up an ATM and get the license for that. I can be an exchange operator. I can be a trader. There's all sorts of different levels you can be. Or I can just simply be a user or user/holder, where I just purchase, hold, and wait. There's the whole point of it is people have a choice now. People have an opportunity to participate at the level of engagement with whatever investment they can contribute. Again, it's not, I have to say it's not a financial advisement show, but invest at your own risk. And most importantly, as Andrew Antonopoulos says, if you don't control your private keys, you don't control your Bitcoin. And it's all about control, getting the power back to the individual for control. So whether or not someone chooses to take their Bitcoin and invest into other coins, whether they choose to invest into companies, whether they choose to hold it, whatever it is they choose to do with Bitcoin is of their own making and choosing. At the same time, I personally don't believe that these other coins are detracting from Bitcoin. It's silly. It's bullshit. It's like saying that somehow Reebok or Nike or Adidas subtract from each other. They're competitors. They compete for everyone's dollar, everyone's fiat, or everyone's Bitcoin, if you will, for the economic weight or power individuals have for their goods and services. And it's not like Reebok, Adidas, or Nike don't have any kind of utility. It doesn't mean they don't have any kind of fluff to them. It doesn't mean that they don't have don't have a purpose or a function. I think what people are missing with the whole concept of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in general is not only is it a monetary system, it's also a political system, it's also a communication system, it's also an economic product in general. And people are going to treat it like a product. They're going to use it. They're going to break it. They're going to do break it in the sense that, either breaking it up in little pieces, break it in the sense that, when they try to create wallets or exchanges, and maybe they lose it. Maybe they do make bad investments. Maybe they don't properly hold their keys for their Bitcoin, or break it in the sense of trying to figure out whether there's any flaws or bugs, which has happened. And apparently there's something with breaking Bitcoin when it comes to nodes. Someone has found an exploit or bug. This has happened in the past. For example, very early on in Bitcoin's history, there was an exploit where someone was able to create, I think it was like 1 billion coins of Bitcoin, which broke the consensus, broke the 21 million Bitcoin. That was quickly fixed, and I think it was one of the early hard forks that Bitcoin has done. Bitcoin has done hard forks in the past. Bitcoin has done soft forks. It's all about consensus and getting consensus within the community. I'm not going to discuss replay action right here. Maybe some other time. Trying to get away from the Bitcoin discussion, but with the China stuff and just some of the things I've seen coming out of the discussion, I'm bringing it back up, I guess. I was hoping to take a break from it, got really tired out about breaking down the Bitcoin block size debate, which was on the Musings of the Shy podcast. But anyways, don't listen. Okay. When you listen to people, understand when they're saying this, what they're really saying is they want just one product, just one thing. And that has never worked out in the history of just having one thing in existence. Because when you have one thing, in the end, that can also be a central point of failure. Just having one product, one purpose for everything, for, smart contracts, whether you disagree or agree that they're a stupid product. Currency. Right now, people are so focused on storage value, and given the economic cost of sending Bitcoin and the value of Bitcoin, the fees are so high that you're not doing currency transactions where you're buying and purchasing daily usage items. Being able to obtain it, in China, they're shutting down exchanges there. So you're going peer-to-peer cash, and that's cost prohibitive. You have to carry fiat. You have to be sure and certain that if you do debit or credit cards of that nature, that the banks are not going to shut down your account, that you're not going to monitor or watch. In the case of China, here in the States, some local Bitcoin traders are getting hassled and locked up. Yes, some of them have, with some of the court cases, had other things going on where they were doing some other illicit activities. But there's been a couple that have been arrested that all they were doing was selling Bitcoin peer-to-peer. But anyways, I want to just kind of break down. In a moment here, I'm going to just kind of talk about shoes in general. Shoes are my thing. I mentioned Nike, Adidas, and Reeboks earlier, and explaining how, those particular companies out there in existence, are they really truly taken from one another? I'm sure Nike would love, currently right now is the number one shoe. I'm sure would love for Adidas and Reebok to cease to exist and not only have the only shoe everybody wears. But it doesn't make every type of shoe. I'm sure there might be some, and I'll break down the type of shoes I have. I'm sure they would love for that existence. And I don't think that is the sole function of Bitcoin. It was an idea to generate the concept of economic control to individuals. It was not meant to be the one and only coin to rule them all. It was supposed to just start a revolution, and it has. And who knows? Maybe there might be a coin out there. It could be Ethereum. It could be Litecoin. It could be something else that might come out there and be like Apple. See what everybody's doing, do it better, and also add a revolutionary type of invention to it. I kind of think that's kind of like Monero. Don't want to get into the whole privacy coin debate, but what they're doing there is they're pretty much doing what the function of Bitcoin as a currency and storage value, but doing it a little bit better and constantly improving to make sure the privacy is there, that the blockchain is solid, all the functions are solid. They're consistently improving and moving the code, and I think they have a very strong utility to it, and it's gaining traction and gaining a lot of adoption, and thus a lot of value to it. But who knows? Who knows for the future? We're just, 8 years into it? 8 years into the space? Almost 8 years, yeah. 2008 was when the white paper came out. Next year is 2018, so not 8 years. So 9 years, 10 years will be when the white paper came out. So 8 years since the codes come out. 2019 is when the code came out. Fairly early on to this thing. I mean, everyone compares to what's going on in the cryptocurrency space to that of the internet side in the early 90s. I kind of think we're really way into the 60s, where it's just maybe a little bit past the 60s, maybe the 70s, when you started seeing more universities utilizing computers, because the internet was just interconnected universities talking to each other, and businesses and government. It was just a very small loop, if you will. And they were fairly early on, maybe early 80s, where you have a lot of enthusiasts, many of them just making machines themselves. You had to have a bit of coin, a bit of wealth, a bit of privilege to participate. But that started breaking down as people started getting secondhand machines, started learning more about it, maybe going to university, started expanding to the out of the Ivy Leagues, and added certain tech-focused universities to almost every university. So maybe early 80s is where we're at, where we're starting to see, Compaq building the portable computer and taking on IBM. I think that's where the state it is that we're at, because we're not seeing that big utility, that big UI function associated with mass adoption. We haven't seen that breakthrough yet. There's been a number of different coins have tried it, like Namecoin, to where you just have a name. Ethereum has a naming system. Certain wallets are trying to make it more easier for people to be able to maintain and keep their private keys, but not worry about the number and stuff like that, or even the 12 mnemonic thing. People are trying to play around things to make it easier for people to utilize, so it's like a 1, 2, 3 thing. Or as I mentioned in my little rant about the fees, where you just press the button and it's popcorn and it's done. It took a happy medium of all the different popcorns out there, and then that 220 was the function to allow to pop popcorn. And if you had to adjust either down or up, you can manually input and not have to calculate about the heat waves or whatever. You just figure out a little bit of seconds. Maybe I might minus 10 or up, in my case for one particular popcorn, 5 seconds. And you had to baseline to figure it out. You didn't have to do all this calculations about what proper heat or whatever should it be. Exactly 2 minutes and 21 seconds or 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Making it very, very easy for people to engage and interact with cryptocurrencies. Again, even though there's a significant amount of value overall in the cryptocurrency space, we're still fairly early into it. And not only that, we are about our balance, if that matters for you, the overall market cap. It's not even a teardrop compared to the overall financial structure. Really, it's not. But again, I just think people are making too much of an emphasis on one coin. And I think people need to, there's a lack of imagination, also a little bit of lack of empathy, I think, on the part of some people that are Bitcoin Maximalists, where they're not thinking long term, but the needs of people. How much money to you might not be the same as how much money is to me. What something costs, the value of something, might not be the same for you or I. Even if that economic dollar is attached, it's the same. Say something, for example, like, it's a good example that everyone kind of goes for. Ice cream. I love Cherry Garcia by Ben & Jerry's. You can get a scoop for, I think, like $1.99 for most places. They kind of come up. And some might think that's just too much of a splurge, too much of an expenditure. But for me personally, I believe it's worth it. It's worth it because it's one of my favorite ice creams. Normally I get it when I'm like stressed out a little bit, so it kind of gives me a pause. I have this little bit of ice cream, if you will, and kind of takes me away. The day washes away, and it makes me more amenable to the people around me when I go home and interact and engage with them. I'm not biting their head off. I'm not taking my day out on them. I had like that brief, for less than, basically $2 therapy, if you will. That little 10 seconds, wash away everything that's going on. scoop. Now somebody else, for them, that might not be the same function. Maybe ice cream doesn't do it for them. Maybe spending $2 on ice cream in general, when they think, why don't I just go ahead and get a point? That might be the value issue, where they still like ice cream, they still have the function, but they'd rather have a pint of it or a gallon of it to eat. Life functions differently for each individual, and I think that's something also missing again from the cryptocurrency space, where people think so much is universal, when there are a lot of things that are universal, not everything is universal, and particularly economics. There's so many different factors, so many different lives, experiences, to so many different ways that economics works for people and doesn't work for people. But anyways, here's my thoughts about shoes at this point, and kind of wrap it up about the utility of shoes and what I think about shoes and how they functions into this discussion. And now I'm just gonna wrap it up. Okay, so we have what I call my fun shoes. As you can see, it's a little frayed, a little beaten up. Try to fix it with the tape. I used to be a very big punk rock girl back in the day. There's bubbles, more of a bubbles. Here's my Batman stuff in the front here, as you can see. I had taped this all up and did polish stuff. If you notice, scratch and post for you eagle-eye comic book reader, that's from Catwoman. And as you can see, the shoe's really beaten up, torn up, a bit broken. That's why I don't wear it. Just kind of keep it for sentimental reasons. And it's, that's the name of the shoe. And this, to me, is Dogecoin. Got beaten up, got a little frayed, got a little bit broken, but it was a coin for fun. It wasn't really a coin for value. It was supposed to learn. Here we have a nice little, dress shoe for office wear, where I didn't have to, what can you say? I can paint my toes and have a little bit of fun. Dress shoe. It's a little bit worn out, a little beaten up, which is fine. It is a cute shoe. Then you have this. You have these little cowboy boots. Another set of dress shoes. A little, a little more covered. I would say medium price wear. I don't think I paid more than $24 for it. And I would say this shoe and the shoe before that, it's kind of like your Ripple, those bank coins, if you will, those try to get to banks type of coins. Oh, and this is my everyday shoe. This is my flip-flops, going out the yard, doing stuff with the cats. I live in the dogs, I should say. And then you have your Nike shoes. Well, those are not Nikes, but those are your sneakers. Another sneaker shoe. Black. Very utility. Very, very utility type of a coin. Or shoe, if I will. Very worn out. Very utilitarian. I would say this is like Litecoin. It's meant to be spent. It's not meant to be a storage value. It's meant to be spent and used. As you can see here, it's not too bad looking. It has really good stitching, but it's kind of a little beat up just for simply the cushion part. I feel every shock going on. And then this is my hiking boot. Dogs got to it. I would say this is Ethereum. This is one of my favorite boots. It is very functional. Think of smart contracts. They're a very utilitarian, very functional purpose. You're trying to either raise funds for a particular company, or you're trying to make smart contracts work, and that's what Ethereum's for. It's kind of get beat up, sturdy type of a system. Again, my dogs got to this, but this inside, not a well-made coin. This is not a well-made shoe. They're kind of broken up, and this is where you can say maybe some of your shit coins are. Not very well made, got really beat up, really frayed, didn't last very long. I think these lasted maybe like 3, maybe 5 months, and they started falling apart. And those are the kind of coins you gotta watch out for. And then you have this, my house shoe. Again, a little for the winter. So maybe, when I send very huge, big transactions, $400,000 to, I don't know, Kenya for a business, that might
that might be, I don't know, Bitcoin Cash or something. And then here you have my favorite shoe, the shoe I'm using right now, which is these Carpenter boots. They don't have steel toe. The first boots I had steel toe. But if you look at the back here, it's a little frayed. I only had these for like a month and already it's coming out of the seams. So it means that it wasn't quite well made, if you will, which was very, very annoying.
So that's my thoughts about, how shoes, if you can think of it in comparison to an analogy of all the other different cryptocurrencies that are out there. I hope it's useful for people. It kind of gives them a different perspective about how to think about the space. You can't just have, one coin to rule it all. Again, Nike is supposed to be the number one shoe. If you can think of it in comparison to an analogy of all the other different cryptocurrencies that are out there. I hope it's useful for people. It kind of gives them a different perspective about how to think about the space. You can't just have, one coin to rule it all. Again, Nike is supposed to be the number one shoe. For the longest time, it was Adidas. They kind of Reebok. Some cases the top three go back and forth. I don't think I even own any of those top three shoes any longer. They just don't do anything for me. I have other types of shoes as seen in the video. But just imagine if like Air Force One was like kind of the only shoe. Great shoe. Many different colors. You have the mid top, high top. It's, low top size. But you wouldn't have your Converse. You wouldn't have your I like boots. Your cowboy boots. Your, what's another good boot? Your Dickies. Your Red Wings. Red Wings is a great custom-made shoe. Well made, handmade. I believe they make these shoes just fit to your foot, really. That's why they're so expensive. And they last very long, and they're well-made shoes. Had a pair years back. Red. Great shoe. Great shoe. If you could afford Red Wings, that's a great shoe to have. If you're in construction, and if you're not doing a job, I would say that's gets a lot of gunk or muck on your shoe. Not that you're not getting a lot of gunk and muck in construction, but you know what I mean, like tarring, painting. I guess there's stuff you can get off the leather and stuff like that, but like really corrosive stuff, I think like tarring, street tarring and stuff, you probably wouldn't want to wear a Red Wing shoe. But if you're like putting up drywall, dust can come off. Sometimes dust isn't quite if it gets stuck in there. Hammering things out, machining stuff. Wiring. Red Wing's a great shoe, comfortable shoe, lasts a very long time. You're on your feet, feels like air. You're pounding stuff, like especially considering that concrete is laid down all the time for construction. So you're going from dirt to concrete, and concrete on your knees and feet, and the shock absorption is not the same as being on dirt. I'm sure you know that if you're in the construction. Great shoe lasts a very long time, so you're not going through that type of shoe. Now if you're doing like tarring or something like that, whether it be roofing or putting down streets and stuff like that, or something of that nature where there's a lot of chemicals or gunk, I wouldn't recommend that, because then if it kind of eats away at the shoe, or just really tears up the shoe in the sense of the chemicals that kind of fall onto it, and then you can kind of get upset because you have a $275 shoe, and it kind of seems might get eaten away, or it just looks like crap, or looks like trash. Maybe not concerned about the look, but it wears down on the leather after a while, and it's just annoying, if you will. It might be too cosmetic, maybe not, that's not your concern, but I would think, with certain chemicals, wearing down the seams and stuff like that and getting frayed might be a bit of a concern, because then you can't really wear the shoe because it's coming off, the inseams are coming off and stuff like that. But that's pretty much it. Just keep an open mind, read, expand your knowledge. Just realize that you're in the beginning of something that is not even really taking off. This is the beginning of a revolution. You're right there when people are still having discussions. People still know one another. Where people, like, if you actually become, a little bit known in the space, people are going to know you. They're going to have a little index, a little footnote of you. Whatever your contribution might be. Or you can just say, I was there. And there's proof of that. Now that there's, the blockchain. But thank you very much for listening, and to the moon.